This is a small glimpse into Brittany Quiros's Mariposa, an all-Latinx produced show. The play recently finished its run at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. While Mariposa is Quiros's first show at NYU, she's always dreamt of working in the theater industry.
I always knew I wanted to be an actress. I came out the womb and I was like, whoa, I want to be an actress. But I genuinely always had that feeling of, this is my calling. This is what I want to do. I want to be a performer. I want to showcase. I want to be a star, you know?
Quiros grew up on the south side of Chicago. The child of Mexican immigrants, she explains that theater is viewed as an unconventional career choice in her community.
Theater is so inaccessible in our community. So a lot of the theater that you regularly hear, bunch of Mexican immigrants cannot go see or are not interested in seeing because the stories being portrayed are not about us, or they're so inaccessible to us because of the language.
When we look at Times Square today, which houses all of the country's Broadway shows, we see classics like Wicked and Hadestown. What we don't see are shows by Latino writers that cast people from this community. Of course, there are exceptions, such as the lead star of Bad Cinderella, which is currently being performed. However, representation overall remains largely low for Latinos in the industry.
A Government Accountability Office report published in October 2022 showed that Latinos remained largely unrepresented and misrepresented in film and theater. Moreover, from 2010 to 2019, Latino representation increased by only 1%.
The biggest thing that drives a commercial production, is always money. How am I going to get the funding to make this happen? And this is kind of where this question of representation comes in. Because at the end of the day, the commercial theater industry, you could argue, is largely white. From the audiences, from the behind the scenes, from the works that are typically produced. So the question is, how do we kind of uplift those new types of narratives of people from different backgrounds when the model is built to uplift white narratives?
Francine Torres, an associate arts professor at Tisch, has also directed at Stanford University's Casa Zapata program, which is dedicated to the promotion of Latino work. She also feels let down by the lack of Latino representation on Broadway.
Typically, whenever I go to the theater, I look around in the audience to see who's there, and I don't see a lot of Latino people in the audience. If the community has never been welcomed into the theater, the prices are very high. It's very hard for them to go, and even when there is a show that is about them.
Quiros believes producers don't want to produce Latino shows because they're not the traditional stories that Broadway displays. They're not typically watched by a wide demographic.
Why do you think that there is less representation of your community?
I think they're scared. I think that they know how powerful we are. So they need to place all these rocks on us to make sure that we're down. People are not telling these stories. It's not because they're not happening, because they are happening. It's because these are the stories that are not meant to be profited from.
Famous playwright Lin-Manuel Miranda is the face of Latinos in the entertainment industry. But Quiros seems reserved to call one person's portrayal of an entire community accurate.
I always think about everyone praises Encanto, everyone praises In the Heights. It's everyone praises these Latinx stories, but let's go back to those stories. And a lot of those stories, they do talk about patriarchal norms, they do talk about gender bias, they do talk about issues within Latinx families, but it is to a certain extent. You can't go too far with it because then it's not profitable, because then people won't want to see it.
Others appreciate Miranda for providing opportunities to the Latino community and to other people of color.
That is one person, and I truly am grateful to him because we didn't have in the Heights, we didn't have a Hamilton. And he's sort of, he's sort of somebody I take a great amount of pride. And I'm very grateful to the work he's providing for so many BIPOC people. And is Hamilton perfect? No, I think In the Heights is kind of perfect in terms of talking about gentrification. But who else do we have sticking up for us all the time?
For Quiros, creating Mariposa is an endeavor that reveals the realities of her community. The play follows Mariposa, a woman who has to confront abusive and complicated relationships in her Latino family. Because such Latino stories haven't been shown before, and they are not sugarcoating Latino families, Quiros thinks producers won't make money from them.
Radical Latinx theater, I think, showcases the truthfulness of the complexity of Latinidad. And that is what will not be profitable, because then people start to see that, oh shit, there's flaws within our community. Oh shit, it's not always like we're gonna, a little like abuela's gonna like say something bad and then we're gonna break into a song. No, it's like we're gonna talk about the real shit.
Quiros began writing the script as an assignment for her playwriting class. She knew she wanted to grow the story into a full play because it portrays the untold stories of life as a first-generation Mexican-American Latina. But first, she had to be selected by NYU to put up the show.
I don't know if sometimes you get the feeling that some things are meant for you, or some things like that, of course, like you're anxious about things, but like deep in your heart that like you're meant for something. And like I just knew going into that interview, I knew that it was Mariposa's time to like be told. I want Mariposa to put people in a place where they question things, and to remember that there's so many different perspectives to a story, that there's not one centered answer, that Latinidad is so complex, that being undocumented is so complex, that being a first generation Latina is not all hearts and flowers. I feel like there's so many like stories that are, of course, like, yes, empower first generation Latinas, we're badasses, of course, but also it's like we go through so much, and romanticizing us just devalues us, because it invalidates all the shit that we had to go through to even be put there in the first place.
Through Mariposa, Quiros wants to remind Latinas that she sees and feels for them.
Is for all the maripositas, all those maripositas who are looking to like break out of their shell, all those maripositas who feel like they're the only ones that are going through something. Like, I want those maripositas specifically to know that like you're not the only one, like that there's people out there who are fighting for change. There's people out there who will do anything to like empower you, who are creating these safe spaces, and it's just a matter of like not losing hope, and not losing yourself.